welcome back po. Welcome back to Lira in Law. I am, as I've said, no, your host, Lira Simon Kababat, broadcasting live from London, England. Thank you for joining me, no, on a Thursday, kind of spring. Actually, it is spring now. Hindi gaano malamig. Last week, it was cold, no? Hindi ko pa, I must admit, hindi ko pa I've not been put away. I've not put away yung mga coats ko. My coats are still out, no? But today, for the first time, it was actually quite warm. Or it felt like it was quite warm. So, sabi nga nila, bukas daw, mainit ulit. But the weekend, we'll see rain. Never mind. As long as we're nearly there with spring. But anyway, thank you very much for giving up your spring evening to be with me tonight. And as usual nga, we're going to try and discuss legal issues that concern you. Has it not been an interesting legal week this week, no? Also politically, I'll say no more. Anyway, now, ang pag-uusapan nga natin, as I've said, is this new case, relatively new case, 2025 case. It was actually heard, determined nga in January. So it's only a few weeks old, in fact. Now, it's ang kaso po, ang pangalan ng kaso, but BUTT, no? Against Secretary of State for the Home Department, basically the Home Office, okay? And it was a Court of Appeal case. And it was one that was raised in relation to another case that I had fairly recently at the first year tribunal nga. So ito pong nangyari. So let's have a look. Ano bang tinignan nila in relation to this? So the Court of Appeal looked at public interest of immigration control, Article 8, which is private life, family life. And there's an old case called Chikwamba. Those of you who are familiar with immigration will know about that case. It was a 2008 case, but still good law, but there have been a number of cases nga pro it, against it. But anyway, it's one of the things din na tinignan nitong kasong ito. So tingnan natin ang background. What are the facts? So the appellant in this case was a Pakistani national. So he's from Pakistan. Dumating siya dito sa UK in 2006 with a visitor visa. Visit visa siya. Naging overstayer siya. And after about 10 years, in 2016, nagpasok siya ng application to remain in the UK, regularize his stay in the UK as a spouse. So nagpakasal siya. No? Nandito yung asawa niya sa UK. So the Home Office, unang-una, refused that application on the basis that they did not accept that there are what they call insurmountable obstacles, no, sa kaso, or whether that there are exceptional circumstances. I'll be coming back to those legal phrases shortly, no? So sabi nila yun, those do not exist, and that the couple can pursue their family life back in Pakistan, no? Now, on his first appeal, so he was refused, he was given a right of appeal, he exercised that right of appeal. So on his first appeal, he went before the first-year tribunal, as usual nga, and sabi ng first-year tribunal, there's no independent evidence provided that actually that they would suffer as a couple nga a significant or serious hardship upon relocation. Basically, pwede silang bumalik. There's no evidence na hindi sila pwedeng bumalik and enjoy family life in Pakistan. Okay? Now, that appeal was unsuccessful. That appeal was dismissed. So, ano na nangyari after that? And then there was, it seems that the appellant did not take the matter further, and then years went by again. Now, in May 2021, nagpasok siya uli ng application, no? Spouse application nga uli. The application again failed. This time, actually, they said they did not believe that the relationship is genuine, okay, or subsisting nga, and in any event, there's nor would it be unjustifiably harsh for them to continue the relationship outside of the United Kingdom. Again, I'll come back to this unjustifiably harsh issue. So, anong nangyari? So it went obviously before the first-year tribunal. It went they went then to the upper tribunal. Anyway, it found its way to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is certainly one of the highest courts in the land. So that it found its way to the Court of Appeal meant that there were issues nga of legal issues that the court said they want to look at. Now, ano bang nangyari? No? So basically, the Court of Appeal was actually, the appeal was brought by the Home Office on this occasion. The appellant clearly won on the first-tier tribunal anyway. So the Court of Appeal looked at the case again, and they determined, ang kaso nga, that there were errors of law made by the first-tier tribunal. Now, sabi nila, the Court of Appeal that is, that the tribunal failed to consider whether there were what's called insurmountable obstacles to private life in Pakistan, or whether there are exceptional circumstances, and simply found that that the decision of the Home Office was disproportionate. Anong ibig sabihin yun? So, sabi ng Court of Appeal, nagkamali yung first-tier tribunal. Tinignan nga lang nila, is it disproportionate, no, to send him back to Pakistan, rather than looking at whether there are insurmountable obstacles or exceptional circumstances. Now, stay with me. I know it can get a bit, it can get quite intense and quite confusing. So, the upshot of it is this. Nung tinignan nga ng Court of Appeal, sabi nila, nagkamali yung first-tier tribunal where the appellant actually won his case. And so when they looked at it, basically they reversed the decision. They found for the Home Office. Now, why did they do that? Now, why is this case nga important? Tingnan natin, right? Now, basically, sabi ng Court of Appeal, there is a high threshold, no, that needs to be applied nga by the Home Office and any courts that look at unang-una nga public interest, immigration control, okay? Especially where the immigration history is poor. So, translation yon, kailangan tingnan nyo, no, when you're preparing a case or either for an application nga or an appeal, that you submit enough documents to show that there are indeed insurmountable obstacles. No? So, hindi nga lang that it's inconvenient, na it will be difficult. It's way above that. No? Insurmountable obstacles or exceptional circumstances. Again, it's not enough to say, well, mahal ang pamasahe sa atin, hindi nga lang basta ka makakauwi. It has to be, again, more than that. I like to say, the way I explain it to my clients is I say, okay, the threshold, the normal threshold nga nandito, as soon as you need to show insurmountable obstacles or exceptional circumstances, the threshold that goes from here goes right up there, okay? So, you need to try that much harder. So, kung ang kaso nyo, so let's apply it nga to the cases that normally you need, where you normally see these insurmountable obstacles nga being applied by the Home Office or exceptional circumstances is where, say, nandito kayo. So, the case of, itong kaso nga ito, the 2025 case of BAT. So, sabihin natin, nandito kayo. Meron kayong asawa dito o meron kayong partner dito. So, sabihin natin hindi nga kasal. Matagal na nga kayo dito. No? Wala kayong visa. So, TNT, overstay o kayo dito. Now, gusto nyo tumira na nga dito dahil nandito kayong pareho. No? You want to stay in the United Kingdom to pursue your family life with your partner in the UK. Now, this case is important because it actually provide some guidance anong kailangan tignan ng korte and of course the Home Office. So this case is important in many ways. Una nga, there's guidance. Also, this case is clear, it's Court of Appeal. So pag magpapasok kayo ng application or indeed appeal, you should distinguish your case from this case. No? So ang kaso nyo, sasabihin nyo, well, ibang kaso ko. That here, it was found there were no insurmountable obstacles or no exceptional circumstances, for example. No? Ang kaso nyo, there are indeed insurmountable obstacles or exceptional circumstances because. No? So, kailangan yung sabihin. Hindi lang sabihin, kailangan yung pakita. No? So, this is where this case again, from a practical point of view, becomes quite important when you're making applications, as I say, or if you are appealing nga. Now, una nga, let's dissect it. Anong kailangan nyo pakita? Masasabi ko sa inyo, evidence is king. No? What's this phrase? Sabi nila, cash is king. In this case, for law, evidence is king. You need to be able to show and convince initially the Home Office, and then if it's refused, of course, the court, the first-tier tribunal or upper tribunal, or in this case, not Court of Appeal, that your case falls within insurmountable obstacles or exceptional circumstances. How do you provide evidence? How do you I'm often asked this actually, itong kaso ko, but how do I prove it? How do I show it? In many ways. So una nga, always start with statements. Statements, now I don't mean bank statements, of course, they can be useful evidence also, bank statements, but by statements, I mean parang affidavit, yung istorya nyo, okay? And your statements must be, it must be a good balance between, of course, you have to be factual, and by all means, yeah, you can also say, what you feel, how difficult it would be, but please do not be melodramatic, because it's not helpful to your case. Gusto na makita, okay, these are the facts. These may amount to insurmountable obstacles. These may amount to exceptional circumstances. If you're packing it in with melodrama, okay, then that may take away from the strength of your statement. So importante nga, your statements must be, it doesn't have to be long also. It doesn't have to be pages and pages. It needs to be relevant kung ano sasabihin nyo. And tip ko, what I find quite helpful to also give you yourself a structure is I head it, So meron kong topic heading. That's how I prepare my statement. So, unang-unang lalagay ko, of course, apart from the basic details, pangalan nyo, saan kayo nakatira, anong trabaho nyo dito, if that's the case. I also say then background, Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I just normally say my immigration background is this, Ilang taong kayo, for example, kailan kayo dumating dito, and then my family life, in the United Kingdom, my relatives I have abroad, my insurmountable obstacles, exceptional circumstances, my family in the United Kingdom. So you can structure it in however way you want, but importante nga, there must be some kind of structure. You don't want to get lost. You don't also want to get repeating yourself. That's also not helpful. If once you say it once, you don't have to say it again. It's also a statement. So whatever you put down, they can reread again. Yung statement nyo, importante po yun. At of course, hindi lang para sa inyo. Kung meron kayong mga witnesses, so asawa nyo, anak nyo, if they're over the age of 18, for example nga, kaibigan, na makakatulong nga, then they should also prepare statements if they're going to give evidence nga at court. Yeah, importante yun. Dahil kailangan pakita ano bang sasabihin nila. And normally what happens is they what they often refer to as adopt your statement, So the judge will look at it, and your barrister or your solicitor may well say, okay, you made the statement dated whatever. Do you confirm the truthfulness of that statement? And once you say yes, then they don't normally ask you much more. And then the other side, normally the Home Office get to question you over your statement, So yun. So importante po yung statement nyo yung una tama, alam nyo, if there are dates, relevant dates, important dates, put it down. And of course, it must be prepared for you or by you. Okay. If I'm dealing with cases, of course, I prepare statements for my clients and their witnesses after taking instructions from them. So kaso nyo pa rin. But it's just, of course, but it's prepared by your legal representative. Pero importante po na tama nga, alam niyo sinasabi nyo. Okay? So statements, I cannot emphasize enough how important statements are, because it sets the scene, if you like. Yun ang umpisa yun ang unang babasahin nga ng judge. Titingnan nga nila, well, pangalawa, because the first one they will read really is the grounds of appeal, or the refusal grounds of appeal. Tapos yun, titingnan nga nila, ano bang sinasabi niyo? Anong kaso niyo? Anong buhay niyo ba dito? Okay? So, importante po yun, statements. Now, you can, of course, also provide, especially nga if it's an application rather than an appeal, letters in support. Okay? Sulat. No? The many times I've seen letters in support just duplicated. The worst was I had one case that I took over from someone else, and there were something like over 50 letters in support. But what was of concern is that they were duplicates. They were saying exactly the same. Iba nga lang pangalan at saka petsa, yun lang, nung nagsusuporta. But otherwise, it said exactly the same thing. It was generic. Don't make that mistake when you're submitting evidence nga in support. It has to be what I often say, bespoke. No? So magkakaling sa nanay nyo, sabihin natin. Sasabihin siguro nanay nyo, oh yes, nandito ako, nung dumating nga, ilang taon siya, is she okay health-wise, is she still working, what was her job nga before, why is it that she does not wish for you to return? Sabihin natin. Kung yun yung kaso nyo nga. And that goes the same for mga kaibigan nyo if they're going to prepare statements. I always also say to my clients, I would rather have 2 good statements that are to the point and where the witness can provide good supporting information than 20 statements that are just too general. Because it's not quantity, it's quality. Okay? Importante po yun. Kung magpapasok kayo ng statements or indeed letters in support, I normally also provide a copy of some kind of ID from the person who made the letter or the statement. Just to show that it's a genuine letter or genuine statement. So a copy of the passport would do, a copy of a driver's license would do. And of course, if they're going to come to court, if they're going to be a witness, then you must also make sure that they are available on that day. Now, other evidence would be, and this is something, unless you have legal background, you may not know about, what they call country reports. Now, for most countries, the Home Office will look at what they call country reports. So basically, the reports that's prepared really for the Home Office, setting out delikado ba yung bansa, what's the mortality rate, say for children, how are minorities being treated, how are women being treated, So all those things may be contained in this country report. Okay? Importante po yun. So, sa mga bansa, if you in the case of Bat, he's obviously came from Pakistan. Kung galing kasi sa Pilipinas, there would be a country report. It may be relevant to you. Okay? What I also like to do is I look at reports about the country at that time. So it could be not last year. It was a different case, sabihin natin sa Pilipinas, but this year, 12 months later, things have worsened or got better, So always look at up-to-date reports. So, for example, I had cases that involved Nepal. I always look at Nepal because it's in the past they've been, of course, subject to, like the Philippines, quite a lot of earthquakes, but devastating earthquakes. So that may actually say that this one place was subject to devastating earthquake as a result. Infrastructure has still not been completed, or built up. So those are country reports or reports about the country. For example, if you're going to a place like Pakistan, it could be that women, the reports on women may say that they're not perhaps as progressive, for example. So you own, So it's quite important that you look at country reports or reports about the country. Also, expert evidence, right? Hindi po, of course, you can provide just a copy of your medical notes, no, which you're entitled to obtain, or just a brief letter from your GP. But where you're unwell, so sabihin natin, ang witness nyo, nanay nyo, may sakit si nanay, sabihin nyo, no, kung may sakit si nanay, you need really a bit more than simply perhaps potentially a GP report, no? It could be that you want something a bit more than that. So kung meron siyang problema na unfortunately maybe cancer, maybe something nga from the oncologist nga, or if there are issues with mental health, no, with one of your witnesses or yourself, no, maybe a report, a psychotherapist report or psychologist report or psychiatrist report. So never underestimate experts report, because the idea is you're saying to the judge, look, itong problema ko, and it's actually supported by, my medically, by your GP, by a therapist, by psychologists, by psychiatrists. And then I would normally go one step further, and I look, may problema nga, it can be, as I say, mental health issues, o kaya to do with kidneys, no, we seem to be prone to chronic kidney disease, CKDs, no. So it's you then want to compare potentially what are the treatments available in your home country where you would go back to what you have now, no. Can you even travel? So expert report, to include medical reports, important. And last but not least, okay, legal representations. Kung meron kayong abogado, then when you make an application nga, certainly when we make applications, I certainly deal with, I spend a lot of time and big chunk of my legal representations, kung ganitong kaso, deal with insurmountable obstacles, exceptional circumstances, and of course, mga kaso, the cases that support your case and also go against your case. Because you can't just ignore those cases that go against the facts of your case. You need to distinguish them from the facts of your case. Otherwise, the Home Office will just say, well, itong kaso, the but case of 2025, this is exactly your case. We're going to follow it. So it is for you to say, yeah, we're aware of that case, but it's not, it can be distinguished, and you can use that phrase, no, take it from me, by all means, no. You can distinguish that case from the facts of your case because, no, lagay nyo doon, no. And kung meron kayong abogado, they should do that. As I say, importante po kung kaso nyo, wala kayong visa, nandito kayo, you're making an application, in the case of Mr. Butt, to remain in the UK based on family life nga, then importante po that you address the issue of the legal issues nga. Okay? And as I say, kung meron kang abogado, they should do that for you. And you're entitled, of course, to ask for a copy of the legal representations. No, so it's not increasingly. This one is probably the most recent and most known case, in 2025, because it's a Court of Appeal case nga. It's not, hindi nga po basta-basta. You have to make an effort when you're submitting cases like this. Do not assume, and a lot of people do this, do not assume na tatawagan kayo ng Home Office. No, nagpasok kayong application, nandun sa harap na nga nila, tatawagan kayo to try and get from you nga a bit more information about your life in the UK, ano bang kaso nyo nga dito. No, do not assume that, because 90% of the time, hindi po yun ang ginagawa nila. If you don't submit your documents in support, then it's more likely than not they will just refuse it. And then you're in the realms of appealing. And of course, yeah, you can appeal. It goes before a judge. The judge will be independent of the Home Office, but that's it's harder, to potentially, it's harder in a way to win an appeal than it is to get the application and also the application sorted. So if you are kung kompleto kayo, you have your case, you presented your case well, then the chance of success is maximized, and that's really what you want. No, you need to present your case um, uh, correctly, quite properly. And I suspect that there may have been some issues with this case nga, either because the Home Office did not believe it nga, or maybe there were insufficient documents in support. We don't know necessarily. Okay, but of course you don't want to fall um, into that problem. No? The idea is to maximize your chance of success, and of course be truthful to the Home Office, and you will be doing your case an injustice by not giving them documents nga in support of your case. No? And as I say again, do not assume na tatawagan kayo to elicit from you nga documents or information. Don't assume that, because most of the time that's not what's gonna happen. Okay. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. No, it's this case fascinated me. Partly because obviously, it was relevant to a case that I had recently, and it kind of pointed me also to. It emphasized to me again how difficult it is to actually support your case, on insurmountable obstacles or exceptional circumstances. So beware, you have been forewarned. Kung ganong kaso nyo, importante po, give it as much as you possibly can. But don't, again, I say again, I don't think it's helpful to have statements that are like melodramatic, because that's not really where they're coming from. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed that. So the case, I'll give you the reference to the case again. It's called Butt, B-U-T-T. Again, Secretary of State. It's a 2025 case. It was heard by the Court of Appeal. If you're interested and if you have time, check it out. It's actually quite an interesting case. It also makes reference. I mean, pinag-usapan nga natin, it's quite a shortened version of what it was about. It's actually probably much more interesting than how I'm portraying it to be, because there's quite a bit more to it than what we can pack into tonight. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, I get quite passionate about these things. That I do tend to go on. So, and there's no one here to stop me. Keep talking, so I'm going to stop now. Now comes my absolute favorite part of our get together, and that is yung batian natin, And I do hope kung nanonood kayo, huwag kayong mahiya. I've had many people, they sometimes see me in the office, tapos ang sabi nila, oh yeah, nanonood ako, pero hindi, nahihiya akong bumati, And I always say, look, bakit kayo mahihiyang bumati? It's only us, okay? So if you're watching now, say hello, please, okay? But those of you who are saying